Everybody, this is Joe. We're talking about Marvel Multiverse, and we are continuing our analysis of the new powers and power sets in the X-Men expansion. Here we go. Next, we're going to take a look at the Luck power set. This is a brand new power set, and it's essentially divided in two, either buffing yourself and your allies, the luck portion, and then there is the debuffing portion, which is jinxing your enemies. And you could easily go into only one half of this if you wanted to and make just a battlefield controller or just a support character, or you could go deep into the power set and pick up both. So there's a lot of flexibility here. What you're going to find as we get into luck is that it frees up action economy incredibly well for support and debuffing characters, but it can get very expensive with focus. So let's analyze it, and we're going to start with the Jinx, or the debuffing or battlefield control portion of the power set. We're going to start with Jinx U. This is a rank 2 power with no other prerequisites. It is concentration, the range is reach, which we will discuss, and it costs 5 points of focus per turn that you keep it active. So it is an ongoing cost. We make a melee check against a target. Upon a success, which means that the check is going to have to meet or beat the melee defense score of our target, we jinx them. A jinxed target is going to have trouble on all action checks. Please notice, this is all action checks, not just attacks. This is movements, this is melee checks, checks to break out of grapples. Any type of a check where there's a roll, there is automatic trouble, which is beautiful. Also, on a fantastic success, this does melee damage, but that is pretty incidental for the purpose of this power. Jinx U, I think, is a very difficult to use power, and I think that you grow out of it very, very quickly. You'll see what I mean when we get to the next power, but we're just going to start with the requirement for the melee check. This is the only power inside of the Jinx portion of the Luck power set that requires a melee check. It's the only one. So to use this consistently and effectively, we need to build a character that is good at melee checks, and nothing else in the power set requires that. Now, maybe you're building a melee combatant that also goes into luck, in which case this is totally fine. However, if you are building any other type of a battlefield controller, ego-based, agility-based, whatever, this becomes difficult to use because we are going to be next to our enemy, making ourselves easy to attack, and we have to have a relatively good melee check in order to consistently use the power. This is an introductory power, and I think that we grow out of it very, very quickly, as you will discover. The next power is Evil Eye. This requires Jinx U and a rank of 2, so you can pick it up at the same rank as Jinx U. This is a concentration power. It costs 5 points of focus, so the same as Jinx U, and it has a range of 5 spaces per rank you have obtained. So at minimum, 10 spaces away, or 50 feet, and that will grow throughout your character's career. Here we pick an enemy within our line of sight, and we target them with a Jinx, and then they have all of the issues that come from the Jinx U power, namely trouble on all action checks while concentration is active. And did you notice the thing that I did not say? I did not say that there was a roll associated. There isn't. There's no ego check or logic check. There is no check associated with Evil Eye. You simply point at somebody, and as long as you hold concentration and spend 5 points of focus per round of combat, they have trouble on all action checks. This is vastly superior to Jinx U in every respect. There is no melee check whatsoever, so it automatically works. It works at range, and it has the same cost. I think that Jinx U might still have a lot of play later in a character's career if it did not have a cost to it, ongoing cost at least, right? Whereas 5 points of focus to initiate it, and then it stays for a certain number of rounds or something like that. But as it is, there is no character I can imagine that would take Jinx U and not immediately afterwards pick up Evil Eye and then just never use Jinx U again, since this is superior in every way, or at least tied. So Evil Eye is great. It is worth 5 points of focus per round to take one enemy and just debilitate them pretty dramatically, right? This is worth it. Where this gets really expensive is if you try to jinx multiple enemies simultaneously with Evil Eye and start spending 10 or 15 or 20 points of focus per round of combat. You can burn through your reserves of focus incredibly quickly in this power set. But with Evil Eye, you will not use it once you hit rank 3 for more than one target. And the reason why is our next power. Next we get to Jinx You All. This requires a rank of 3 in the Evil Eye power. It is a concentration power. It has a range of 5 spaces per rank obtained, and it costs 10 points of focus per turn. We are able to pick a number of enemies up to and equal to our rank and jinx them, causing them to have trouble on all action checks. All of them, which is pretty incredible considering that once we have multiple enemies, this is the same effect as using Evil Eye twice, or it's cheaper. Once you have 3 enemies, Jinx You is cheaper than simply doing Evil Eye 3 times, right? Obviously. But don't forget the action economy cost. If I wanted to use Evil Eye to jinx 2 enemies, I have to use actions on 2 separate turns to do so. Jinx You All is 1 piece of action economy for an ongoing effect that debilitates an entire battlefield. The action economy savings is wonderful in the luck power set, and because we don't have to continually use our action to jinx people, or as we'll see on the other side with the luck powers, the ability to simply buff our allies, and it saves our action economy for other things we might want to do, it is worth the ongoing focus cost in order to free up the action economy. What gets tricky is just having multiple concentration effects. So I love Jinx You All. This is an incredible way to simply cripple a battlefield and allow you and your allies to really storm through an encounter. I adore this power set, and I really like this power. Next we have Real Jinx. Now this is a rank 4 power with no other prerequisites. It has no focus cost and is a permanent alteration to your character. Real Jinx says that any character that attempts to harm us, which I imply to mean does physical damage, so this might bypass certain effects, though your narrator might interpret that differently, to harm us by a direct action, so targeting us with some kind of a roll rather than an area of effect situation, will have trouble on the action check. Always and forever. That is an amazing debuff to your enemies. The only caveat with Real Jinx is it does not stack with other forms of trouble, but still, this is endlessly useful. Of course, the play here is if you're going to go into the luck power set, you could use surprising power to pick up Real Jinx earlier in your character's career because it has no other prerequisites. So this is a very tasty pickup for surprising power, but it is an amazing way to make your character survivable. I love the idea of building a tank style character that puts Real Jinx on them and runs into the middle of battle and starts doing just incredible stuff, and none of the enemies can hit him. There's a lot of great character builds around Real Jinx. Next, we're going to look at the luck side of the luck power set, and we're going to start with Lucky Me. This requires a rank of 2. It is an action to use, a concentration ability, and costs 5 points of focus per turn. We use our action to give ourselves an edge on all action checks, all of them, as long as we hold concentration. This is pretty good. Giving yourself an edge on everything that you want to do is just going to make you really effective, especially in critical situations. The trouble with this is, of course, the action economy. It costs you your action on one turn in order to initiate this. So you don't really get the benefits of it until the next round of combat. Which means that you've spent 10 points of focus before you get a benefit out of this. Of course, if you had a reaction attack or if you had a check for your movement, you would get to use it in your previous turn or in between. But generally speaking, this is something we set up for later rounds of combat. When I'm looking at support style builds, I oftentimes think that I'm just going to be better off pointing at my allies and buffing them, which starts having benefits immediately in the initiative order. So maybe you're building a character and you want to have some pretty amazing likelihood of landing really, really big attacks, but I'm not convinced that this is an amazing power. It's a prerequisite for other great stuff, but I'm not convinced it's really amazing. The other reason why I'm not convinced Lucky Me is great is that giving yourself an edge on some things is relatively easy, right? If you want an edge on movement, we have a trait for that. If you want to give yourself an edge on your attacks, well, we have powers for that. We have signature weapon and we have signature attack, meaning I have powers that automatically grant an edge as well. So I can give myself an edge on some of my most important things that I'm going to do without a constant expenditure of focus. Now, of course, Lucky Me is everything, 100% everything you want to do, and that might be worth it. But I don't think Lucky Me is as useful as other stuff in the power set. Next we come to Lucky You. This requires the Lucky Me power, a rank of 2. It is concentration. It has a range of reach because you have to touch your target, and it costs 5 points of focus per turn. We touch an ally, and the ally gains an edge on all action checks made while using this ability. I don't mind the touch requirement here as much as I did with Jinx U. With Jinx U, the problem, of course, was that if I have to touch the enemy, they can attack me very easily, and I have to get away from them. And it requires that my build have, in order for this to work consistently, that my build have a reasonable melee score. And that makes Jinx U problematic, and we just skip past it and go to Evil Eye. Lucky You, on the other hand, is easier to use because your ally is absolutely willing to have you touch them in order to grant them an edge. It does mean you need to be near them wherever you are in the battlefield, but if you pop this off at the very beginning of initiative and then go and do other stuff, they can run into battle and you can retreat. So I think this has more logistical ease of use, personally. Next we have Wish You Luck. This is the ranged version of Lucky You. It requires Lucky You and a rank of 2, so another rank 2 power. You can pick up a lot of this power set at early levels, which I like. It is concentration. It requires a range of 5 spaces per rank you have obtained, and 5 points of focus spent per turn. Now we just get to point at an ally that is in line of sight, so we have to see them, and they automatically get an edge on all action checks for the duration of the power. Of course, this is straight up easier to use than Lucky You because we can do this at range. I don't know that I needed both of these powers in the power set. It feels like they are trying to get symmetry where it wasn't necessary. So if these were just one power and we just had Wish You Luck, honestly, I think that would be fine. It feels like in order to gain edges more easily, we're being asked to put in more powers and expend more of our precious powers known. So I don't love this as much as, of course, I love Evil Eye, which is the Jinx version of this power. But still, being able to do this at range is straight up more tactically useful than Lucky You. So it is a good power. Next, we have Lucky Us. Lucky Us requires the Wish You Luck power and a rank of 3. It is concentration. The range is 5 spaces per rank obtained and costs 10 points of focus per turn. We are able to pick an ally per each rank we have obtained, so at minimum 3 as we get started with this, and it will grow with levels, and they gain an edge on all of the action checks that they want to do for the duration of the power. One little caveat here that is important, it does say that we pick an ally, which means we cannot affect ourselves with Lucky Us. Words on the page, rules as written, the way that it looks to me is that you are not your own ally, right? You are just yourself. And so as a narrator, I'd probably allow somebody to pick themselves as one of the people, but rules as written, I don't think that actually counts inside of here, since it does say an ally per rank that we have obtained. Anyway, this is wonderful and is straight up going to benefit the entire party. And you might have been thinking this whole time, wait a minute, this 10 points of focus per round, 5 points of focus per round, isn't that just too expensive? With the Jinx powers, because they automatically work with no roll associated, and because they free up action economy, I think no, they're not. But you might wonder how luck compares to the other support build options, which is, of course, the Tactics power set. So let's take a look at that. Inside of the Tactics power set, you're going to find Battle Plan. Battle Plan is an action to use. Its duration is 1 round, and you use it as an action to grant your allies an edge on all action checks. And it costs 10 points of focus. So here we have the same effect, and we have the same cost. The same. The only difference is the number of allies that you can actually affect. With luck, it is a number of allies equal to your rank. And with Battle Plan, it is equal to your vigilance, which means that Battle Plan can affect a larger group. How important is that? Well, it's going to depend on your table and the size of your party, but generally speaking, luck is just a straight up better power than Battle Plan. Luck preserves your action economy. You can get it rolling and then do other things. With Battle Plan, if I want to keep that edge going, I have to do it as my action every turn. So of course, one play is to bring luck up in round 1 of combat and start doing Battle Plan and give a double edge to all action checks by all of your allies every single turn. It would require your action to do so and 20 points of focus per round, but you could do it and be probably the best support character in the world at that point. That's an idea for a build. But the key thing for me is action economy matters. And so because luck is the same cost, it's no worse. I don't think the difference in the number of allies between the two powers is that significant. And because we've preserved action economy, this is just the better way to be a support character. The one thing about Battle Plan is you can pick it up earlier because it is the beginning of the power set, where luck is more the end of the power set and requires more stuff to go into it. Battle Plan has no power prerequisites other than inspiration. Lastly, we have Charmed Life. This requires a rank of 4 and no focus cost. It is a permanent alteration to your character. Every round of combat, we get an edge on any one action check of our choice. That's it, simple as that. There is one caveat. This does not stack with other forms of an edge. So if you have things like your signature weapon or signature attack, it does not stack with those. But having an edge on something every turn, that has a lot of value. And because there are no prerequisites to this, it is a very tasty pickup for surprising power. I love the luck power set. I think it is really exciting. I think there's a ton of character build options inside of it. And you could go really deep into it and make it the point of the character, or you could use it to buttress something else that you are doing, being able to point at an enemy trying to get out of webbing and just giving them trouble on the check to get out of the webbing. Mwah. Beautiful. Or being able to be the best support character in the game and just start handing out amazing amounts of edges to all of your teammates. Fantastic. There's a lot of exciting stuff here, and I can't wait to see some characters built with it. Next, we have the changes to the Power Control power set, and there are 2 new powers, Power Slider and Swap Powers. Let's get into Power Slider, and I gotta tell you, I'll tell you right up front, this is my favorite power in the X-Men expansion. Straight up. This is it. One, it is powerful, but mostly I love it for the storytelling abilities that is baked right into the concept, okay? When you take this power, you must have a deep conversation with your narrator on exactly how it will manifest, all right? But if you do, it's incredible. So let's get into how it works. So this requires a rank of 3. It has no other prerequisites, and it is a permanent alteration to your character. The concept is simple. There is some criteria or concept that is at the core of your powers. And your powers can get stronger or weaker depending on how your relationship with this criteria is going. If things are going well for you, you get all the benefits of boosted powers, meaning that for all of your powers, your ranges and your durations are doubled. You get a +1 to damage multipliers, and all successes get the benefits of fantastic successes. But if things are going poorly for you, you suffer all of the disabilities of dampened powers. Your ranges and durations are cut in half. You get a -1 to your damage multiplier, and you cannot benefit from fantastic successes. So what are the things that are going to affect your powers? Well, you negotiate that with your narrator. It's something at the core of your character, but they give us 3 examples of what it might be. The first is confidence. If things are going well for you and your team and you're confident in yourself or in success, then you get boosted powers. But if things are going poorly for you, you get dampened powers. The next one is faith. Maybe you have faith in some concept or ideal or something that is spiritual, and as your relationship with it is strong, you get boosted powers, but as your faith is shaken, you get dampened powers. Last might be media popularity. As you are popular, you gain the benefits of boosted powers, but if you become unpopular, then you get dampened powers. The concept here is that your relationship with your powers is going to get stronger and weaker throughout the campaign, but it will be at the narrator's discretion. There is a warning at the bottom, specifically for narrators. It says some players might attempt to use this to always succeed at everything, and that is not the point of this power. Instead, the concept is for the narrator to change the relationship with the power throughout the character's career and create an exciting story, sometimes better, sometimes worse. And I would 100% as a narrator want to have things dampened going into a final conflict of some kind and then shoot up and be boosted right at that critical moment for that amazing cinematic superhero flavor thing. I don't know a single narrator that would allow a player to cheese this, and you never should. But if someone's willing to engage with this power the way that is meant to have a good faith reading of it, they will have an incredibly exciting time at the table, and the full story of the campaign will be better. So it requires some trust, it requires a good relationship with the narrator, but this is fantastic. Next, we have swap powers. This requires a rank of 3. It is an action or a reaction to trigger. The reaction is when we are triggered with an attack. That part's important. It is concentration, and it costs 10 points or more of focus. We make an ego attack against a target that we can see that is within 2 spaces per rank we have obtained. We have to spend 10 points of focus or more. More would be if the highest focus cost of powers that they have is higher than 10, we have to pay that amount. Upon a success, we swap powers completely with the target, with the only exception being the swap powers power itself. Because if that's swapped, they could just swap them back and then it just becomes non-functional. We can now use our new powers as if they had always been ours. There are some cool things to be done here. Right? There are ways of being able to all of a sudden change powers and buff an ally in some way, if that could be useful, and you can work that out with them. There are ways of taking away from an enemy the thing that they're most excited about being able to do and make them just less dangerous if you don't give a lot of dangerous capacities yourself. Or if this is an ego-based check, that means you're a high ego character, you can dump your physical attributes and then you can swap with an enemy who all of a sudden doesn't have the ability to use any high ego power. So there's a lot of interesting builds to be done here. One thing that is not clear in the rules, what if I have used steal powers or swipe power, which allows me to grab a power from somebody else? So let's say I have character A, and I'm character B, and I steal some of their powers in some way. This is the power control power set after all. I then swap powers, using the swap powers power, with character C. Does the power I stole from character A transfer over to C? I think that it does, rules as written, and that's because in swipe power and steal powers, it says that we can now use that power as if we had always had it, meaning it's just considered part of our normal power collection, and if I swap powers, it travels over. So you could actually start moving powers through the battleground in very strange ways that I don't know are really accounted for or discussed here. I'm not sure the play with this, that there's some kind of great ability or great combo that can be pulled off with swap powers. I'm sure that there is, The most obvious one I can think of is if I do not take flying on my character and I swap powers with somebody who can fly, then all of a sudden they would fall from the sky. That's a pretty nice trick, but there's other things like it I'm sure that you could figure out. Power control has been a favorite of mine in this game ever since it was introduced. If you had to pin me down on my favorite power set, it is either teleportation, power control, or omniversal travel. Most days I would say power control. And these two powers just make it that much better. I love them with all of my heart, and I think there's so much fun stuff to be done at the table with these two powers. Those are the powers we're going to look at today. Next time we're going to pick up where we left off. Until then, YouTube's made out of buttons. I hope you press some of them, and I'll see you next time.